3 years ago, the world we knew disappeared overnight. We lost our homes, our communities, and most of the people we loved.
Go, 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 go!
You're gonna have to go below the line at least a dozen times.
If I don't go, Hunter dies.
Run!
I can't do this alone.
Come on, Will!
A lot more of us are gonna die.
Go, go, go!
This is about more than just your son.
There's no such thing as more than my son.
The movie starts with sinkholes suddenly appearing worldwide, triggering explosions that plunge society into chaos. Huge monsters, called reapers, emerge from these holes, hunting and killing humans. Bullets are useless against them, and even the military fails to protect society. Eventually, people in high-altitude areas discover the monsters freeze at 8,000 feet, prompting survivors to relocate to elevated regions to start over. 3 years later in Colorado, Hunter lives in a small Rocky Mountains community. One day, he crosses the 8,000-foot safe line, curious about what lies beyond. He takes only a few steps before encountering a reaper. Terrified, Hunter runs back and barely escapes, crossing the line just in time. Back at the Lost Gulch Refuge, home to 193 survivors, his father will scold him for the risky move, reminding him about the monsters in his lung condition.
What if your lungs seized up when you were running away?
Hunter explains he wanted to search for more people, but will insist he can't bear losing him like he lost his wife. Later, Will goes hunting with Katie and shares his concerns. Katie sympathizes but notes that Hunter, being the only child in their community, naturally wants friends to play with. Will believes Hunter is just drawn to the last place he saw his mother. Meanwhile, scientist Nina experiments with bullets, testing them on Reaper hide, but they still prove ineffective. That night, Will hears Nina still firing shots. Frustrated, he recalls how his wife joined Nina on a special mission that ultimately cost her life. Suddenly, Hunter starts coughing, so Will rushes to his room and changes the filter on the machine that helps him breathe. Hunter calms down and falls asleep, but that was the last filter in the house. Will study some maps, wondering how difficult it would be to cross the line to find more filters. On Hunter's birthday, Will gets the community's last box of mac and cheese to give his son a treat. While they cook, Hunter asks why they don't use the radio anymore. Will explains that they need to save electricity and now use flags to communicate with other refuges. Hunter finds this sad because he believes talking to people is important. That night, Hunter starts coughing again, and Will has no choice but to give him an injection. After Hunter falls asleep, Will goes to Nina and tells her he plans to leave for Boulder in the morning to find filters for his son. He insists he found a safe road, but Nina doesn't believe him because she knows the area well. She reveals that her old lab is in Boulder. Will asks her to come with him since she has studied the Reapers and survived her last trip there. Nina refuses, pointing out that she only got lucky and reminds him that his wife died on that trip. Determined, Will mentions a mine that cuts through the mountains, but Nina thinks it's worse because the Reapers could trap them there. She still refuses to go. After Will leaves, Nina modifies a compass but can't stop thinking about the death of Will's wife, leaving her in tears. Meanwhile, Will asks a neighbor to look after Hunter and heads to the gun store to stock up on weapons. Katie arrives and declares she's going with Will, ignoring his protests. Nina reluctantly agrees to join, but mocks Katie for her lack of experience, calling her a burden. Will says goodbye to Hunter, promising to return, but Hunter reminds him that his mom made the same promise and didn't come back. The trio sets off, and Nina continues to insult Katie until Will tells her to stop. Nina explains that Reapers emit strong bioelectromagnetic pulses, and her modified compass can detect them within half a mile. After a long walk, they reach the Elba Fire Road and the 8,000-foot line. Once the compass confirms no monsters are nearby, they cross the line and head downhill. They soon find abandoned trucks and search them for supplies, collecting flares, ammo, and a grenade launcher that Katie knows how to use. Nina discovers a Reaper scale and takes a sample. When Katie urges her to hurry, they argue, and Nina accuses Katie of trying to seduce Will. Furious, Katie shoves her against a truck and reminds her that Nina killed Katie's best friend, Will's wife. The argument turns physical, and Will has to separate them before it escalates further. The group resumes their journey and is surprised to find horses in the forest, realizing the Reapers only attack humans. They finally reach the Alta Vista ski area, planning to use the chairlift to reach the mine safely. Suddenly, Nina's compass detects a nearby monster, and they see trees shaking in the distance. Will climbs to the top of the lift to activate the backup generators while the women stay on the ground to provide cover. Katie panicked when she saw the monster approaching. She fires a few grenades, causing explosions that fail to harm the Reaper. Meanwhile, Will connects the generator, and Nina flips the switch before climbing onto a chair. Will quickly joins her, and they both open fire on the Reaper as it approaches. Katie starts climbing the tower to reach the chairs, but the monster jumps onto the cables, shaking the chairs violently. Will and Nina hold on tightly. Katie times her jump, but misses the chair, forcing Will to catch her midair. Nina runs out of bullets just as the monster shakes the cables again, causing all three to fall to the ground. They immediately run and barely cross the 8,000 feet safety line before the monster can catch them. As night falls, they decide to stay in a nearby ski resort. Over drinks, Nina shares her observation. The Reapers killed 95% of the world's population without stopping to eat or sleep. Unlike predators, which kill to eat, the Reapers slaughter humans for fun and ignore other animals. She wonders if the Reapers were sent specifically to eliminate humanity. After the women fall asleep, Will reflects on his last conversation with his wife, who had faith in Nina's ability to find a way to defeat the Reapers. The next day, the group reaches the mine where Will once worked. He explains that the tunnel entrances are above the 8,000-foot safety line, but the lower levels dip below it. This news worries the group, as the tunnels aren't properly sealed, leaving them vulnerable to the creatures. Nina also realizes her compass won't work underground, adding to their challenges. Nina and Katie have no choice but to keep following Will. Wearing construction helmets for light, they enter the tunnels and walk in silence for a few hours. They stop when they find the main tunnel blocked by a cave-in. Will decides they need to go down to level 7, which requires walking 1,000 yards under the line. Startled by bats, they take the stairs and enter a new tunnel, walking quickly to avoid trouble. Suddenly, they hear a noise and cover their helmet lights, but it's too late. A Reaper spots them in the tunnel. The group runs as Katie fires occasional grenades to slow it down. Abandoned machinery hinders the Reaper's progress, and Will opens fire, but it has no effect. They find a hole in the wall and squeeze inside, while Will shoots at the rocks to make enough room for them to hide. The Reaper inserts its glowing tail into the hole, so Will throws a flare to distract it. The light reveals an exit in the opposite wall. They clear some rocks and crawl through to escape. Will moves last, dodging the Reaper's tail before following his friends. After a few minutes, Katie emerges into another tunnel, but is immediately stabbed by a Reaper's tail. Will tries to save her, but he's too late and watches helplessly as the monster takes her away. Nina spots a ladder, and she will climb up as a Reaper chases them. Nina will find the door and run out of the mine, reaching a safe altitude just in time. They continue their journey, only pausing to pet a goat. As night falls, they discover an abandoned house, break in, and spend the night there. They find some boxes of mac and cheese and eat them for dinner, while Will shares that it's Hunter's favorite food. He asks Nina about the old lab, and she explains her plan to find a chemical that could make bullets damage the monsters. Nina theorizes that the Reaper's scales are electrically charged, so the right bullet might cause internal combustion. Will thinks it sounds like a far-fetched magic bullet and resents that his wife died for such a weak theory. The next day, they take a truck from the house and race across the line, passing through a town overrun by animals. They eventually reach the hospital and search for the filters while hearing strange noises, though the compass doesn't detect any danger. They climb to the top floor, find the filters, and start running to escape. Suddenly, a Reaper bursts through a wall, forcing them to dodge its massive claws. They stumble over furniture and get hit by falling debris as the Reaper smashes walls and windows. The Reaper's tail suddenly grabs Will through a wall. Nina grabs a fire axe and hacks at the tail until it releases him. She then opens a gas canister, filling the corridors with fog to create cover. This gives Will an idea. As the Reaper approaches, he shoots a bunch of oxygen tanks, causing a massive explosion that sends the monster flying out the window. The creature stops moving, but they can't tell if it's dead or unconscious, so they hurry. Will wants to turn back, but Nina convinces him to help her reach the lab to finish her bullets. After they drive off in the truck, the Reaper wakes up. Moments later, they arrive at the lab, where Nina starts mixing chemicals while Will keeps watch. On one of the desks, Will finds a picture that shocks him. It shows Nina with a family she never talks about. Nina breaks down, explaining that she had been working the day the world ended and wasn't with her family. She feels especially guilty because she skipped her son's soccer game. She also admits she blames herself for causing Will's wife's death, but Will reassures her it wasn't her fault. When Nina finally finishes the bullet, she tests it on the hide, but it doesn't work. She urges Will to return to his son, while she stays behind to keep experimenting, determined to find a solution or die trying. Will drives off in the truck, leaving Nina to mix another bullet formula, but it also fails. Nina gets so absorbed in her work that she doesn't notice her compass reacting. Suddenly, she hears a noise and realizes there's one chemical combination she hasn't tried. She quickly prepares it as her last hope. Meanwhile, the truck hits a tire snag and flips over. Will loses consciousness, but wakes up to the sound of a monster approaching. He kicks out the truck window, escapes, and starts running as the Reaper chases him. Climbing the hill strains his injured body, and just as he's about to cross the safe line, a second Reaper appears, blocking his way. Will fires desperately, but fails to hit his target, losing hope. At that moment, Nina arrives and uses her new bullets. A strange explosion filled with smoke and electric charges confirms her theory. Nina swiftly shoots all the Reapers, killing them in seconds, even as they try to escape. She grabs a piece of a Reaper's body and shows Will the mechanical parts, proving these beasts are robots programmed to kill humans. When Will asks who sent them, Nina suggests it was aliens. Later, the duo returns to their refuge. Will reunites with Hunter, and Nina raises a pirate flag to signal her discovery of a way to fight. Survivors gather to produce special bullets, while Will uses the radio to spread a message of hope. Nina keeps the monster bodies for further study. Armed and ready, the survivors enter the forest and kill as many Reapers as they can to reclaim their land. One night, Will and Nina use a telescope and spot 3 mysterious lights approaching Earth. And that's how the movie ends. What did you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and press the bell icon for more amazing videos. See you next time.